Hello everybody, we did catalytic concrete and we're focusing on Indonesia. So here's just a map of Indonesia. It's basically small islands, and yeah, it's a smaller country. So I did society, and the main religion in Indonesia is majority Muslim, and then you have some Protestants, which is 6%, Roman Catholic, 3%, and other kind of smaller religions after that. Then for ethnic groups, you have the Javanese, which make up the majority, 41%. Then you have the Sudanese, 15%. Then you have a whole diverse kind of range of ethnic groups after that. They take up little percents, and there's obviously there's 30%, which is others. So there's just so many ethnic groups in Indonesia. For meetings, delegation, they enter in order of importance. So the highest members will enter first, which is kind of important to see, because if you want to know who you should look after, who you should kind of talk after and get a good rapport, it's best to get good relationships with the people that come in the room first. You need to avoid slouching, sit in an upright position. That's very important for them to take you seriously. It's essential to determining who the prominent people in the room are, to get good posture. And some helpful hints. It's hard for people to say no, so the answer is usually yes. And if they disagree, they express it through silence. Do not raise your voice or openly disagree in a meeting. That's huge disrespect, and you should never, never do that while you're over there. And the business meeting attire for men, it's suit and tie. For women, it's the blouse and the skirt. Directly speaking your mind is also offensive, so you kind of want to beat around the bush when you're over there and not say what you want to say. And don't assume yes means I agree. Liking means I understand what you've said. So that's also important to take into consideration. Just skip through it.
Just up there. Alright, so international business atmosphere, just focusing on like how international business is perceived there. There have been major changes with the economy in Indonesia, so it's becoming a world power, or in the economy at least, and it's definitely getting better for international business. And their views on Americans, one of the interesting facts I found was that President Obama actually lived a couple of years during his childhood in Indonesia, which definitely helps with their views on Americans, which is generally positive. And their view towards women, since it's mostly a Muslim country, they're very conservative, but many women hold high positions of authority, despite the fact that it's a majority Muslim country. And it's unlikely that any woman in the business place will encounter hostility. So more on women, they should act in a professional manner, touching is frowned upon, and they have to dress very moderately because, again, it's a Muslim majority country. And an interesting fact is women initiate a handshake in Indonesia, and it's very rude if you try to initiate a handshake with a woman. Their view towards minorities, they've had slight problems with minorities, religious and racial, but it's nothing that you'll probably encounter in a business area. And some formalities that you should know. The first time you meet someone, you shake their hand and give a slight head nod, but after you meet them the first time, you don't need to shake their hand anymore. The head nod is enough of acknowledgement. And like I said before, to shake an Indonesian woman's hand, they have to initiate it first. And greeting they use is selamat, which means peace.
Alright, so the legal aspect of it. Some of the background is in the last election in 2009, the Democratic Party won. And the person that won, his name is Susilo Bang Bang. Hono, that's the best I got. And the president is actually the chief of state and the head of government. So he's kind of and they have the Republic of Indonesia over there. The currency over there, it's called the Indonesian rupiah, and actually 11,155 of these IDR is equivalent to $1 here, so everyone knows millionaires. The good thing about that is they have fully owned banks over there, but they do recommend that you bring your own kind of crisp $100 bills, because if it's not a new dollar, like $100 bill, like if it has an old serial number on it, they won't really accept it. The economy is not nearly the best over there, so I recommend that. Like I said, they struggle in multiple aspects, and one of those aspects is actually infrastructure. So that's good for us. And then their GDP is pretty good in the world, but the downside is the GDP per capita, which is actually really low. And then a little fact is that the bottom 10% make 3.3% of the money there, and the top 10 make 30% of the money. So it's a little steep there. And these are just some numbers of trading. Yeah, and it just shows that they're obviously better at trading across borders is just like the actual trading of like materials and stuff. But one thing they're really not good at is enforcing contracts, which we'll go over about later. And the trading process takes a total of 17 days. So yeah, it's difficult to make progress just because of like they're starting the business and getting a contract and not really straight all the time. But after that, it will get a little easier. A major thing that I think you know someone of influence, which we'll also talk about later, but it's very important that you get someone higher up in the chain. And then these are statistics from last year to this year. It just talks about what they're ranked in the world now, and then the either increase and decrease in the world since last year. And then looking over that. Yeah, so the best trading cross borders, the average overall, if you average everything out, they're 112. And then, like I said, starting out would be a little harder, but once we have that initial breakdown and get everything started, it should ease out a lot.
Alright, so nepotism is a main category in Indonesia, and it's necessary to have the right contacts in the right places. The higher up the place, the better your meeting's going to go. It might be necessary to have locals make initial introductions, and that might be costly, so you might have to pay a lot of money for that. There's a lot of ideas of respect in Indonesia, so in order to gain respect from your manager, you really have to come with a lot of loyalty, and you have to be very dependable in order to please him. And it's sort of seen as like a friendly relationship, so if you have a friendly relationship with him, then he'll have greater respect for you, and you'll have greater respect for him. For minimum wage, they're set on a regional basis by province, and actually recently, in the past couple of years, it's gone up by 3 to 30%, depending on the province, and the worker insurance is still pretty underdeveloped. So the labor is pretty cheap, and it's often not really productive. People there don't have very many skill sets in a lot of places, so you might have to invest in building their education and training, which might cost a little bit more, but it'll definitely be worth it just to get them the right skill set, what they're trying to do. Also, recruitment of workers has to be taken very seriously, considering you can't fire somebody for incompetence. So like if they're not doing a good job, you're not going to be able to fire them because it's illegal. It could take years to fire them. You might even have to bribe them in order to fire them. So just really be sure that you're hiring the right person for the job. Yeah, and pretty much overall, you have to really understand the cultural aspect of Indonesia before going to do business there, because it'll really improve your communication and